It started with a pair of socks. My first pair of hand knit socks. I was never planning to be a sock knitter. Sock knitting was something that I didn't find particularly interesting, and I thought knitting socks was a bit pointless because socks are so cheap anyway. But when I first started wearing them, this first pair of hand knit socks that was made because of a knit along, I remember thinking that I would never be able to wear any other socks. Or maybe it started with my first linen dress. I'm not sure. But I do remember when I was wearing a linen dress and hand knit socks that I could not imagine wanting to wear anything else on my body than the combination of knit socks and linen. I realized that in regards to my wardrobe, I wanted less, but better. And with that realization came a shift in my mindset and a shift in my consumption as well. I've never been particularly fashion conscious, so it wasn't a difficult shift, just a gentle reminder to myself to stop buying clothing that didn't belong in my wardrobe and to use what was already there. Slowly, I added more pairs of hand knit socks, and I phased out my store-bought ones. I bought a few more linen dresses from small producers who aligned with my values, and I started to feel more at ease in my clothes. A few years ago, I set a goal to not buy anything if I could knit it or sew it myself, or at least something similar. And that's when my journey of a more self-made wardrobe really began. Instead of choosing to knit something because it was popular or because everyone around me was knitting it, I started to ask critically if it really had a place in my wardrobe. I started knitting more to fill in the missing gaps instead of adding, for example, multiple new sweaters. I've been really inspired by Kelsey from Studio Well Held, as she has been intentionally making clothes this past year, and I've been wanting to document my own journey of slowly stitching a wardrobe perfect for a hobbit, puttering in the garden, and enjoying second breakfast by the fire. It's a journey that started some years ago, but I figured that it's never too late to start documenting, right? So my intentions for this channel is just that, keeping a record of what I'm making, how I'm living, and reflections on how I'm consuming less than I am creating. So I'm curious to hear, is there a favorite outfit in your own wardrobe that you reach for on repeat? How does it make you feel? Is it new or has it been around for a while? What about it makes it your favorite? And what about it makes it something that you reach for again and again? If you'd like to join me on this journey, I would love to have you around. This episode will be a bit of an introduction of myself, knitting podcast, to go over the things that I'm making currently and the things that I've just finished making. So a quick introduction. My name is Sandra. I live in Iceland, and most of the time I'm knitting. And if I'm not knitting or mending, I'm just trying to focus on living life at a gentler pace, a bit slower, a bit more quiet, and a lot less pressure. Last year I decided to quit my job. I've been working as a youth worker with young people aged, well, from 10 and all the way up until 25, but with different age groups at a time. And I'm currently working just freelance in projects that are related to the European youth programs. So now that I've made a life where I can prioritize rest and a bit of gentleness, I'm wanting to document this season. So I will be 45 in December. I have two beautiful granddaughters that I really enjoy spending time with. And I have two amazing daughters that are both adults now. So I'm quite happy to be living this quiet little life out here in Iceland. I have a degree in leisure studies, so I know the importance of hobbies and leisure activities and how the things that we choose to fill our time have an effect on our life and our quality of life and the way that we feel mentally. So I've been trying to fill these hours that I have now that are more quiet. I've been trying to fill them with things that are more productive. So I've been knitting a lot. I've been trying to stay off social media. Sometimes it goes great, sometimes not so great. I'm sure that many people can relate to the power of the addiction of social media, which I've been really trying to make an effort to break. So yeah, that's me right now in this stage. Iceland has quite an active and a large knitting community, so I am very lucky to be part of some different knitting groups. I have a lot of friends who knit, a lot of relatives who knit. Here in Iceland, we actually learn how to knit in school, so I think most people know how to knit, even if they might not, be knitters. Yeah. So over to the knitting podcast part of this episode. What I'm wearing, I was wearing this Morgan cardigan, which I knit in 2018. But now that it's getting a little bit warmer, we had a storm this morning and it was really cold, so I was wearing this morning. But now that it's warmer out and the sun peeked in through the window a little bit, I was too warm to wear this, but I was wearing this morning. It's a Morgan cardigan by somebody. The Morgan cardigan by Karen Schneider, and it's from this Line magazine, which is, it's published in winter, spring of 2018. I don't know if you own any of these magazines or if you've looked through them, but they are pieces of art. I mean, this is the pattern that I was knitting, and look at this. The photography is beautiful, the paper is beautiful, and I'm still reaching for this magazine even though it was published 8 years ago. So yeah, I was wearing this earlier, and right now I'm wearing my Heima er best scarf by Sandra Granqvist, who is a Swedish designer living in Iceland. Her handle on Instagram is Design Sandra G, and it's knit with Cardiff cashmere. This was part of a knit along in one of the Icelandic knitting groups that I belong to, and I actually have made also the shawl that she has with the same pattern, but unfortunately it was misplaced somewhere in November and I can't find it anywhere. I've searched and I've called every place that I can remember going to and still can't find it. So maybe another one is in the cards for me this year sometime. And I'm also, I don't know if you can see them on camera, but I'm also wearing the Cider House socks by Summer Lee Designs, and that's knit in a mohair merino sock base from Vassnes yarn, which is an Icelandic dyer, and it's so soft. It's such a cozy sock yarn. I really recommend. So what I'm working on right now, like currently, this is my obsessive project. I cast this on last week, I think, or maybe this week, and I can't stop knitting. This is going to be the Morup vest by Christine Moultrup Holm, and this pattern is in the 52 Weeks of Sweaters from Linet Publications. And it's such a joy to knit. It's such a cozy, rhythmic knit. It's in broken rib, so it's every other row is a knit and purl row, and every other row is just a knit row. And I'm using a organic DK yarn, organic merino DK yarn from Thelma Diamond, who is an Icelandic yarn dyer who is based out of Copenhagen. And this is the color Brownie, and it's this beautiful, beautiful brown with orange and darker flecks. And I'm sure that this is going to be one of my wardrobe staples coming this fall. The other thing that I'm currently working on is a Felix cardigan. I've actually made this pattern before. It's by Amy Christoffers for Savory Knitting on Instagram. I need to frog it up to here to where I split for the body and sleeves because I didn't read the pattern well enough, and I only cast on 5 stitches in each armhole instead of casting on 11. So today I'm going to frog up to the armholes and do that again. I'm knitting this from a yarn from Garn í Gangi, which is a yarn store up in the north of Iceland, and this is their fluffy base. It's 51% baby suri alpaca and 49% Peruvian Pima cotton, and it's 300 meters per 100 grams, and this is actually just 1 skein, so I'm pretty confident that I can get away with just 3 skeins for this project. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on actively. I also have in my basket here a sock that was completed without a heel, and it needs a pair. I also have, this is actually something that I really want to be able to finish. This is my Mystery Musical shawl by Stephen West, and it's going to be so beautiful when I finish, but for some reason I left off with these diamonds, parallelograms. I don't know what you call this shape. Is it a diamond or a parallelogram or something else? Tell me. But yeah, I would love to be able to finish this before the summer. I think it will be a cozy summer shawl here in Iceland, where we still need a shawl in the summer. I have 2 finished objects that I was going to share here as well, even though this is my first episode. It's 2 objects that I finished in, it's 2 shawls that I finished in March. And I decided not to go any further back because then I think this episode would be hours long if I was going to go and show you everything that I've been knitting on. But I have 2 finished objects. 2 shawls. This one is by Sunna Maria, who is an Icelandic designer. It's a really simple, cozy crescent shawl that I knit with double fingering, yarn that I've had in stash for a really long time. I think I bought this yarn in probably like 2018. It was way before COVID anyway. And I've been saving this in my yarn collection for years because it was too precious to use. I don't know if any of you can relate. But there's a challenge here in the Icelandic knitting community that was started by Prjóna, one of my knitting friends. That is just a challenge to use some of the yarn sitting in your collection at home. So I decided to do this shawl. It's a it's a small shawl, easy to wrap around my neck when I'm going out, and really comfortable to wear. This is a I don't remember where this yarn is from because I lost the label years ago. But if I remember correctly, it's a blend of merino, cashmere, and silk. So it's really soft, really plump, and very comfortable to wear. My next finished object is also a shawl, and also by an Icelandic designer. This is the Guðbjörg shawl by Brynja Björk, and it's knit out of 3 different yarn bases from Garnbúð Eddu, which is a friend of mine who is a yarn dyer as well. So my inspiration for the yarn choices was a black and white photo that I took up in the north of Iceland in a small island that I used to live in. And by using these different yarn weights, I was reminiscing a bit about being a child growing up way out in the country where there wasn't really any danger. There was so much freedom to just play and explore. So these different textures feel to me like playing on the beach. So this is a lace weight merino and silk base, and it feels like sand when I'm rubbing it like this. This suri alpaca and silk blend that I have between these sections feels kind of like, you know, the feeling when you stand on a beach and you're in your bare feet and the water, like the waves are coming just gently. That's what it reminds me of. So like the waves brushing gently against my toes. And then this is I think this is 50% baby yak and 50% silk. I might be wrong. I will put it in the description. But this is a fingering weight, so it's thicker and it feels more like the rocks. So I have the sand and the waves and the rocks, and it really reminds me of being carefree and 8 years old, down playing in the beach, with no cares in the world. So this beautiful, beautiful shawl, I highly recommend. It's available both in Icelandic and English on Ravelry, and I will put a link to it in the description if you're interested. She also has a lot of other gorgeous shawl patterns as well on Ravelry. So highly recommend checking her out if you're interested in shawls. I'm fixing my stitches since I managed to drop them. So yeah, this is what I've been knitting on, and this is what I am knitting on. What I hope to knit is I want to make a t-shirt out of this beautiful vegan yarn from Hex Dye Works, which is also another friend of mine who dyes yarn. See, I'm quite blessed with a lot of friends who dye yarn here in Iceland. This is what being a part of the knitting community here is like. Yeah, it's great. But this is a yarn that is bamboo and linen, and I'm hoping it'll make a really drapey, light summer t-shirt. I haven't decided on the pattern yet, but I have my eyes on a few, and I will share those with you next time. I also have swatched for the Come Back Again from Andrea Mowry. I don't know if I'm going to knit this quite yet, maybe not until August. I don't know if I want to work on a project that will be big and heavy in my lap this summer, but we will see. And then I have, I think you can see it here, there's like a gold yarn back here that is from a camisole that I had knit up and and never reached for, never worn really. It was one of those camisoles with like the triangle, like a triangle top here and spaghetti straps, and there was so much puckering here that I never really used it. So I decided to frog that, and I will be using that for another summer weight top, either a tank or maybe a tee. We will see. But I will also share that with you in my next episode, which I hope will be soon. I'm really hoping that I will be able to release an episode either weekly or every other week. We will see how this goes. I'm quite a newbie editor, and I don't know anything about video editing, so we will see how this goes. I'm not making any promises, but I do have a background in photography. I studied photography, and then I was teaching photography for a few years. So I'm feeling quite confident about my recording skills, even though I've had some hiccups in the past few days while I've been trying to record this. I've had problems getting my sound to sync, and then I was having problems with my camera only recording 5 minutes at a time, and so I've had it's been an experience, but I'm looking at this with the mindset that nothing is a failure if the goal is to gain experience. So that's where I'm going with this. Yep, so thank you for joining me, and thank you for staying to the end. Until next time, I will be here knitting, mending, and just generally trying to live life at a bit of a gentler pace. I'll see you next time.